Minister, in your work, you meet a lot of different kinds of
Yes.
Singaporeans from all walks of life. I think far wider than any one of us, yeah. Maybe you can describe to us the social challenges that Singaporeans have approached you about,
Sure.
talked to you about from different
Sure.
perspectives.
It cuts across the whole spectrum. I have my Meet the People session every week. You see people who have lost their jobs, parents who are incarcerated, cannot get into the school that they want, the flat that they want. Well, those are the concerns that ordinary Singaporeans face. But within a community, there are certain sets of challenges. If I speak on behalf of my own Malay Muslim community, we want to progress as fast as possible. But we have certain challenges we have to recognize. There is a rising religiosity, not just within the Malay community, but across all. And how does that impact the communities? You must behave like this because you're in Singapore, you're a secular society. But wait a minute, one religious cleric will tell you must behave this way. How do you strike that balance? Because there will be forces pulling you apart. So you've come across those sort of challenges. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, how do you chart out a path for yourself? Parents are very anxious. I want my kid to go to this school, but can you now convince the parents that there's a different pathway? Because the society is diverse enough in terms of pathways for you to be able to excel. So you have parents coming in and says, can you transfer my son out of this school to that school or not because he's not doing so well? So those are the ordinary concerns of a society that is maturing, looking at the opportunities, not just from a single lens, from multiple lenses. There is a re-education of parents. Parents must realize that I cannot just force my kids into one pathway. I have to ensure that I am able to give him a broad pathway, opportunities so that he can excel according to his own strengths and the opportunities that we have created for him. So you see a broad spectrum.
Maybe if I can hear from all of you, what you think are the different kind of social challenges faced by our different communities?
One of the primary social challenges amongst the communities is job security, actually. There's this stigma that foreigners are coming in to take away their jobs, and they need to understand why the foreigners need to be here in the first place.
Do you think that insecurity is felt a lot more by our minority communities?
I think there needs to be an understanding why the foreigners are here to work for us. The government needs to explain or assure them that it's not the case.
Saleemah?
I differ slightly from Taufik. It's not just the Malay who feel the sense of job loss. Maybe there's a threat to their job. It is the social economic background, the low income. Regardless of race, regardless of which community they're from, they feel that sense of threat. Retail's job, F&B job, they are being replaced. They are not being replaced. It's just that our economy is enlarged. A few years ago, I was working with Sharada Selvanathan, which is a report where we gather feedback and sentiments from the ground. And from this report, there was some feedback that we gathered that there were Malay Muslims who felt that they are being discriminated, especially in terms of job opportunity. We need migrants to be working here. Perhaps this is perceived discrimination. It may not be real, but it is real to them. That's something that we need to address.
There is the discourse and discussion about job security. But that is also something that you see across the world. And I think as Singapore develops, foreigners need to come in for certain work with certain skills. There has been that debate. But for me, a big social challenge that we need to take note of is probably inequality. As our country progresses, you're going to start seeing this division in terms of wealth and opportunities. The government is doing as much as they can. They will try to be a step ahead in terms of making sure that it doesn't upset the social fabric of the country. It's very important for us as individuals, Singaporeans, to take social responsibility and help different areas of society to get the right opportunities.
Minister, how important is community relations in helping someone have better opportunities to succeed?
Oh, I think it's important. I mean, at the end of the day, what we call it in Chinese, 关系, networks. I think this helps a lot for people to get into the workforce. I've always have this favorite anecdotal example. I look at the Chinese community and the Malay community. If you have a Chinese boy that dropped out from school, for him to get into a workshop in Bukit Merah is very easy. The barrier is just language. You can speak Teochew, Cantonese, Hokkien. You go in, you pick up the skill, you become a mechanic in about 3 months. 2 years later, you open up your own workshop. For the Malay boys, they have difficulty because the informal network is actually very limited. And sometimes very difficult for them to go into that network because they don't have the skill sets, in this case, language. So to a large extent, I think we need to understand that dynamic to see how we can help people who are at the bottom to see whether they can actually avail themselves of some of the opportunities. And that's why for me, personally, for the Malay community, I've always believed the best solution is to stay in school. No matter what you do, just stay in school, finish. Even if you go to IT or poly, that's not the end of the world because at the end of the day, there is a pathway. But if you drop out with just a Sec 2 or Sec 3 qualification, it's very difficult because the opportunities are very limited.
Now, we've all talked about the blessings of diversity, but often where there is diversity, there is a tendency to compare and compete. So do you think that such comparison and competition exist in Singapore among our communities?
I think a little bit of competition is healthy. You want to keep up with the Joneses, but look at the other community, they can do better. Why can't I be like them? Because you don't want to be too complacent. At the end of the day, there must be a bit of fire to try and drive you. Well, if the Chinese can produce top doctors, why can't the Malays produce top doctors? So we go to our medical community, hey, come on guys, produce your specialists. So I think to a large extent that drives the community. I don't see this as a benchmarking, but just as a spur to drive the community to say that if others can do it, why can't you do it also? It has to be healthy. It cannot be something which you force the community. I think it must be something that comes from the heart. But as community leaders, I always believe you must set benchmarks. You must set a vision. You have to have an idea where you want to see the community going. And in that process, you take out examples from other communities. I've always looked at the black community in America as a comparison. If you look at the black community, they are a very diverse community. They have the people at the bottom, but they have people at the top. Of course, Barack Obama, right? But they have Michael Jordan, they have filmmakers, they have writers, they have economists. As a community, they have done well, even though they are a minority community. So it's not beyond us to excel.
About 12 years ago, I was in this singing competition. And during the finals, I was the Malay guy. Sylvester was the Chinese guy. So there was this general consensus that Sylvester will win because he's Chinese and there's more Chinese in Singapore. So winning the competition defines the fact that Singapore is such an open country.
Well, meritocratic?
It doesn't matter if you're Chinese, Indian, Eurasian, Malay. If you do well in whatever you do, you'll be rewarded. It's all about whatever opportunities you get, you do the best that you can. You don't complain from the beginning that because I'm a minority, I don't have equal opportunities. I believe we do have equal opportunities in Singapore. It's just about each individual doing the best, giving their best for what opportunities that they have.
For me, for example, a film crew, all the people that we work with, like what Taufik said, is based on how good you are, not based on their religion, race, or anything.
Sometimes there's subtext racism remark, which I still do get.
Like what?
Like, for example, I think a few months back when I was in the Straits Times, and I had friends, you say, oh, the reason you are in the paper is because election is coming, they need to feature a Malay woman in the paper. That's why you get this thing. And to me, like, hello, it could be due to my achievement.
And you told them that?
If I have friends like this, why do I need enemies, right? So jokingly. But I see that always as a learning opportunity for me to deepen their understanding.
Even though I get the comments of, yes, she's a Eurasian, she must have more opportunities in work or whatever it may be, if there is a burning desire, then go fight for it. You need a level of tenacity. You need a level of discipline. You need a level of confidence, too, to really fight. And with a rising population in Singapore, there's even more of a competition to do so. And I think that's exciting, because then that really drives you to be on your toes and say, okay, do I really want this? Or am I just going to sit back and just complain about that and just you know what? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen today.
I think you can look at it at various levels. I agree with Denise and the rest that there is a certain sense of anxiety, whether we like it or not, in our society. I wanted to say this. We have our model of multiracialism. It's called the CMIO model, Chinese, Malay, Indian, others. Sorry, you're in the others. But I've always say the others is growing larger and larger every day, right? Because we have diversity. That creates its own set of tensions. I remember we were having a dialogue with our local grassroots leaders to explain about our immigration policy. And so this Chinese lady stood up and says, they're very loud, They smoke a lot, Their slippers are not orange. I said, who are you talking about? Them lah. I said, who? My neighbors. I said, who are they? Chinese. I said, you're Chinese. No, they're not Chinese like me. So there is a certain sense that they're different, right? And their habits are different. This pace of immigration is actually quite fast and people are not having the ability to make that adjustment. The government recognizes that and we are trying to slow it down a bit, making sure that the infrastructure is in place, but at the same time, explain why we need foreigners in Singapore. They're not taking away jobs, it's creating more job opportunities. My main worry, apart from the inequality question that was raised, is really the sense of hope for the next generation. We shouldn't lose hope because we're going to face a lot of challenges. The economy is slowing down. We're reaching certain limits. We cannot expand our land. We are small and we're trying to go up and we're trying to go down, but we have a limited space. Our demographics is also challenging us. We are not having enough babies. We're an aging society. So all of these factors, plus what is happening globally, globalization, rising religiosity, mass migration of people, it creates a lot of uncertainties. But within that mass of haziness, you must give hope to our people. Because if you don't have hope that there is a better life for the next 50 years for Singaporeans, I think we'll be in deep trouble. I think the government recognizes that. But how do we give that hope? It's by creating opportunities for everyone to excel, to find a place in Singapore. And that is why you notice, Kathy, we're moving away from grades, we're moving from qualification, we're moving towards skills. You may not have a degree, but you're the best carpenter I've come across. You have a place in our society. And I think that's the right move by the government, because we recognize not all of us can be at the top. But we can't be at the top by our own game, like Taufik. He's basically at the top of his game. He's a fantastic singer, performer, and what have you, and he's able to excel. So I think we are trying to sort of restructure our economy and our society in such a way that we have a lot of diverse talent that can come together and that there is a future for all of us. That is an important challenge. And Singaporeans must recognize that we have to work together with the government. Our filmmakers must continue to produce good films, and our entrepreneurs must really push the boundary. Our IT tech engineers must create new solutions. If not, we become an ordinary society. We have to remain extraordinary, and we can be the extraordinary through the quality of our people.